Mr. Neguse, you're recognized.
I thank the chairwoman. I just have to say, before I pose a couple of questions to the chairman and the ranking member, but to respond to my colleague from Texas, for years I've heard my colleagues make passionate defenses of liberty and our constitutional freedoms, our rights under the Fourth Amendment. It is beyond the pale that they now stand silent as we see the images in the videos of American citizens, naturalized citizens, being thrown into ICE detention. It's outrageous. Outrageous. And it is irresponsible of the Congress, in light of what we see happening from coast to coast, to push forward a bill that does nothing to prevent these abuses. Chairman Cole, do you know how many people died in ICE custody last month?
No.
6 people died in ICE custody in the month of December. It was the deadliest month in the history of the agency. Do you know how many people died in ICE custody in 2025?
No.
32 people died in ICE custody last year, the deadliest year since 2004. The bill you proposed here includes no new standards, no new reforms to prevent these types of deaths from happening in the future, correct?
No, I don't think that is correct. There's body cams, there's additional training and de-escalation. There are genuine efforts to try and protect everybody. So no, I would not agree with that statement.
Madam Ranking Member, you care to expound?
Sure. Well, let me just say, we proposed, didn't hear my opening statement, but we have an agency that I believe has gone rogue. I need to make some very important points about people who have died in custody. But we asked for what I viewed as not irresponsible reforms, a prohibition on detaining or deporting U.S. citizens. It seems that would be pretty fundamental. We asked for training and hiring standards that prohibiting the department from changing its hiring and training requirements from requirements that were in place under the prior administration. So that there were a number, actually, prohibiting restrictions on recording ICE enforcement operations that we proposed. The chair is right on, there's limited use of body cams, which is all to the good. But this and
is there a requirement, Madam Ranking Member, to use the body cams?
No.
No.
It is not a requirement.
Correct.
That's right. No.
So that's going
That's
back,
an
Mr.
important
Cole.
point.
The
Right.
point here
Right. It's not.
is, in light of the abuses that.
Right, and we asked for a prohibition on the use of border patrol, that they not be engaged in the interior enforcement. Anyway, there were a raft of reforms that we thought were reasonable reforms in trying to move forward, and they were rejected.
Mr. Cole, what is your objection to language preventing ICE from arresting naturalized citizens?
Look, we put together the best bill we could that could get support from both sides of the aisle. We granted our friends a separate vote on this bill because we understand how
What is your objection? Do you disagree with it?
Look, I don't even remember that offer, to tell you the truth. I've been dealing with 12 bills for a long time, so I don't recall it. I don't doubt it was made. I don't question it, but I don't recall it. I do recall the body cam and the training issues, and we discussed those through. So, again, and most of these decisions were actually made at the subcommittee level.
I appreciate that you two were here to testify on the whole bill, so
yeah,
I understand that.
Well, it's actually one of the keys to success.
Subcommittee cardinals here.
May not be the appropriate way but we pushed as many decisions down as we could on both sides of the aisle. The reason being that, number one, our most informed people on the issue on each side of the aisle are on the subcommittees. They're not up. And I will just tell you, from having been around appropriations for a long time Every level you move it up, the decision becomes less informed and more political, because the people actually know one another.
I would simply say,
know the issue. So
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
so I do
I'll
not
do-
recall this
I hear
particular
you,
discussion.
and I will say that I think that question deserves an answer. I wish we had the subcommittee chairman here so that I could pose that question to him. But in any event, I have other questions for you, at
Mr.
least
Neguse,
more broadly. Yes.
If I could just say that, and I think that, as the chairman pointed out, the higher up you go, that they are more political decisions. And quite frankly, I believe that some of the rejection efforts came from Stephen Miller and from the White House, rather than it being discussed. Now, that's, but we're faced with that, and we put together, the bill that you can. You go as far as you can, and then you one way or another. But I believe that politicization of the effort and not looking at reasonableness in some of these efforts came from a different level.
Yeah, and I don't think this is particularly complicated. I think when you have an agency in which more people have died in its custody than any time in the last 25 years, when you have an agency in which just last month you have the deadliest month in the history of the agency, 6 people dying in its custody, that appropriating $10.3 billion more to that agency is not in the best interest of the American people. That is not complicated to me. Do I have that number right, Mr. Cole, that it's $10.3 billion? I want to make sure I got the number right.
Yes,
Okay.
and no, because when you say appropriate, that's not an increase, that's a flat funding.
I understand. Flat funding, I get that that's your argument. That's fine.
But I think that's an important distinction. They're not getting more money through the appropriations
You are
process.
appropriating $10.3 billion
That's
for the
correct.
remainder. Okay, so
That's correct.
Tell me, Mr. Cole,
can I add one other thing, if I may?
I didn't ask a question. I haven't asked a question. I will ask you.
No, I thought you had, actually. You've asked me several.
I said, is it $10.3 billion? Is that the number in this bill? You said yes. Okay. That $10.3 billion, who profits?
What do you mean by profit?
Who profits from that $10.3 billion
The American
allocation to
people
ICE?
profit
The
from
American
it by
people
better
profit.
security.
Do any
That's
private
right. Do you
companies
want to talk about the number of assaults against ICE
Do any
agents have been?
private
The
companies
number of people that are up enormously.
Mr. Cole,
and by the way, if you're worried about security, thank God we have a secure border for a change.
any private
There's not
companies-
12,000 people a day coming across it anymore.
Yeah, I hear you.
Some of whom are criminals, some of whom are bringing drugs.
you've
And they are
answered-
dealing with some of those people that came during the
I'll
Biden
reclaim my
administration.
time. I think I'm surprised that you won't answer it honestly. I think the ranking
I
member
think
will.
I did answer
Do
it
any
honestly.
private companies profit from the $10.3 billion that is allocated to ICE in this bill? Do they profit? Do any private corporations profit from this bill? Mr. Chairman, if you don't know the answer,
I have
you can
no
say, "I don't
idea."
know." I can tell you the answer. The answer is yes. Dramatic profits, record profits. Have you heard of a company called GEO Group?
No.
It's the largest private contractor for ICE in the United States. This is a news release from their third quarter announcing record profits by virtue of the money that Republicans allocated in the reconciliation bill last year. I'm going to quote, this is from their CEO. Since the beginning of the year, we have entered into new or expanded contracts that represent over $400 million in new incremental annualized revenues that are already under contract and are expected to normalize in 2026. This represents the largest amount of new business we have won in a single year in our company's history. He's talking about the appropriations that Republicans are championing, both in the reconciliation bill and now this $10.3 billion to add to the slush fund that ICE already has. That's where the money is going, to for-profit companies. The Brennan Center has described this as a detention and deportation industrial complex. That is what you all have created. They are making money hand over fist. And I think it's reprehensible. And I think this Congress ought to do something about it. And it's clear to me this bill does nothing on that front. I will move on to a final subject and question regarding NATO. Chairman, you've been in Congress a long time. You have championed the NATO alliance. I assume you agree with me that it is not in the best interests of the United States for our country to be taking military steps to acquire Greenland.
I agree.
And if anything, you've expressed grave concerns on that front.
I do. Well, I don't think we're going to be using military means in this regard, so I don't have great concerns about it, but I certainly agree it would be inappropriate to do so.
There's an amendment that was proposed by Mr. Keating.
I'm not going to judge amendments. I don't have a vote on this panel.
Well, there is an effort afoot in the Congress to put simple language in this bill that makes clear that the appropriation to the Department of Defense cannot be used to attack a NATO ally. Why is that controversial?
There's actually very strong language in this bill extolling the importance and the value of NATO. It's in there.
I'm
It's
sure,
in the bill.
Donald Trump
So,
is going to take that with great, great consideration that House Republicans are extolling the value
I'm
of NATO.
trying to
He seems
answer
be
your
listening.
question, that there is language in here that affirms the importance and how critical NATO is. And I think that is then kind of understood. And that's a point, frankly, that worked on with the ranking member
Well,
and
I
our
guess
colleagues in the United States Senate, that was the statement that they wanted.
and
We agreed with them.
I imagine
so
that a month from
statement
now-
is in the bill about the importance
I
of
will
NATO.
simply close. We've been here before, and a month from now, when this administration takes another unlawful and unconstitutional action, maybe this time in Greenland, we'll point back to the language that you all fought to secure that extols the virtues of NATO as the basis for the administration deciding that at the end of the day, they don't really need to worry about the Congress and the Congress's ability to rein in the administration from taking steps that would violate the Constitution. That's my view, and I'll be voting against the bill for that reason. I yield back. All right, I yield to the gentleman from Pennsylvania for a unanimous consent request.
Sure.
Thank you.
Ms. Scanlon.
Just with respect to some comments Mr. Roy made, I wanted to seek unanimous consent to enter into the record an article from Minnesota Public Radio about criminals that ICE is taking credit for arresting. We're already in Minnesota prisons, many of the ones that they're claiming they're taking the worst of the worst off the streets. In fact, more than half of a recent report were people that were turned over because they were already in prison. So that's January 17, 2026, Minnesota Public Radio.
Without objection, Ms. Scanlon.
Okay, one other from the Washington Post
Yes, ma'am.
today. ICE is targeting off-duty police officers in the Twin Cities, stopping people of color who serve in law enforcement in the Twin Cities. And so that's from today from the Washington Post.
Thank you, Ms. Scanlon. Without objection.
Thank you.